So Marina Mabrey has responded to the to everything that's going on.
Marina Mabrey just looked like she was just unhinged out there after looking at this, man.
In one crazy night, the Sun vs. Fever matchup devolved into a full-fledged circus with 6 technical fouls, 3 ejections, and 2 flagrants. However, amid all of that mayhem, there was one explosive moment that sent the internet reeling and dividing into opposing camps. Marina Mabrey abruptly shoved Caitlin Clark to the ground after taking a blatantly cheap jab at her, but she was somehow not thrown, while Sophie Cunningham was jeered without hesitation, and fans swiftly pointed out the obvious double standard.
Are here the night after WNBA Fight Night. Sophie Cunningham putting JC Sheldon in a clinch. Marina Mabrey targeting Caitlin Clark.
If you were already incensed, wait till you heard Mabrey's response to the situation. Do you believe the league should suspend Mabrey and severely enforce its rules? Let's talk about it in the comments section below.
Oh, and Marina Mabrey's going to get ejected. If the officials saw that, Marina Mabrey is going to get ejected.
Well, they're going to go and look at it.
All they had to do was just eject her. All they had to do was eject her, and none of this happens. If the referees had ejected Marina Mabrey, nothing else happens. The Sophie Cunningham situation does not happen.
The league then deviously chose to reclassify Mabrey's foul as a flagrant 2 after everything had settled. The big question now is how the referees missed it in real time and why it took a wave of outrage for the league to respond. More importantly, will Mabrey be suspended, as commentators strongly suggested she should during the broadcast? There was no press release, no dramatic announcement, just a quiet update tucked into the league site.
So, there are 4 players fined in that game. 4 players fined in that game, but the referees, the scariest part about all this is that the referees came out with their report. They came out with a report and said, the contact made by Mabrey did not rise to the level of ejection. Additionally, it did not meet the criteria for a flagrant 2 penalty. And it was given as a technical foul, not even a flagrant, by the way.
Before we discuss how and why the WNBA overturned its own officiating staff, and whether the repair improved things or made them worse, let's examine the shove that started the tempest.
A lot of it is centered around the last 46 seconds where Sophie Cunningham hard fouls JC Sheldon. She gets ejected, JC gets ejected, does Lindsay? I think Lindsay gets ejected. And in watching the broadcast, even the broadcasters at the time mentioned if they would have just ejected Marina Mabrey, this probably wouldn't have happened.
Let's call it a full-speed blindside hit. Caitlin Clark didn't even anticipate it. She was just playing the game with her head turned when she was suddenly thrown to the ground. It wasn't just another hard foul. It felt personal. The commentators and the crowd both erupted instantly, expecting a flagrant 2 or even a fast-track ejection. But Mabrey left with a simple technical, and the game continued as if nothing had happened. The broadcasters stunned the players enraged, and the players were completely losing it.
So Caitlin Clark gets poked in the eye. Marina Mabrey doesn't even see what happens, and she just decides to clean Caitlin Clark out of it. And the referees just said, nah, it was not worth an injection. So Caitlin dribbles. Look at how far she is away from the ball, by the way. Look at how far she is away from the ball. That's literally, she's nowhere near the ball. She just jumps at her face. And then she belly bumps Caitlin. Caitlin retaliates by shoving in an unsportsmanlike manner, according to the referees. And then Marina Mabrey comes from nowhere.
The video was widely circulated in a matter of minutes. It wasn't just Clark fans who were asking the same question on social media. How is she still in the game? What are the referees even looking at? Everyone was pointing out how the officials were losing control of the game, including neutral observers, former players, and analysts. It only became more annoying when you looked at the rest of the calls. Sophie Cunningham was sent off for a hard play that was far less impressive than Mabrey's.
At this angle, you can see just how far JC Sheldon is away from the ball. The ball's here. She's hitting Caitlin Clark in the face here. If you guys are looking at my cursor. I'm sorry I can't make this bigger. My cursor. She hits Caitlin Clark here. The ball's here. The ball is 3 feet away from Caitlin Clark's face. And she just targets the face. She targets the face. I don't know if there's any other way to describe it. This is clearly, she just lunged at her face. She went nowhere near the ball. She lunges forward. She absolutely, positively, zero doubts about it, lunges at Caitlin Clark's face.
The contradictions were unavoidable. Mabrey remained after what was obviously a more careless and dangerous infraction, whereas Sophie was immediately fired. The entire situation screamed unequal rule enforcement.
I don't see how you can say that any other way. She literally lunged at her face, and then Caitlyn's there walking away, and she belly bumps her. Like, by the way, Caitlyn with the shove. Caitlyn does not move JC Sheldon. If you look at this angle, you can see Caitlin Clark does not move JC Sheldon. They're like, Caitlin shoved Sheldon. Caitlin literally, JC Sheldon's still moving forward. So JC Sheldon is the one who initiates the contact, and then Chaser, and Marina Mabrey comes from nowhere.
The question, are the referees just spinning a wheel before each whistle, kept coming up. Because Mabrey shouldn't have been permitted to continue playing if the same rules had been followed everywhere, but the irregularities didn't stop at the last buzzer. Nope, that's when damage control from the WNBA came into play.
So yeah, she ended up stating this: Marina Mabrey's technical from last night's Fever Sun game has been upgraded to a flagrant 2. Oh man, the league told ESPN a flagrant 2 comes from a standard fine. Additionally, Sophie Cunningham was fined separately for her hard foul with 46 seconds to play.
Yes, that's correct. Later, they announced, actually, we've upgraded it to a flagrant 2. Which, let's face it, is essentially their way of saying, oops, our referees blew it. Fans interpreted that call as an acknowledgement that the officiating staff had made a mistake, not just a small one, but a serious one, and Mabrey would have been sent off the field if it had been made live during the game.
People are calling for Sophie Cunningham's ejection from the league. People are commenting under Marina Mabrey stuff.
The league stated that Mabrey's shove qualified as excessive and needless force. That's okay, but why wasn't it more apparent at the time the referees were seated in the front row? Anyone watching with one eye closed could see that it went too far, which presents a larger problem. Is there a single poor call, or is the WNBA experiencing a serious officiating crisis?
It is kind of, frustrating to see the hypocrisy everywhere in all the spaces when it comes to the Indiana Fever, because I'm seeing the same people saying, and the same people in the media, the same people in social media, which social media doesn't really count and it shouldn't, but these are filtering to people in the mainstream media saying it was a physical league last season to Sophie should be ejected and her spot should be considered in the league, and calling her out on all these physical plays that were totally excusable until the Indiana Fever do them.
And let's not forget that it wasn't simply that moment. Every whistle felt like it came from a different rule book, and Sophie Cunningham was fined and flagged for a move that didn't appear nearly as violent as Mabrey's. Caitlin Clark herself received a technical for reacting after someone clawed her in the eye. The tone of the game would have been completely different if Mabrey had been thrown when she ought to have been. Instead, we had this patchwork mended well after the harm was done.
There's no way y'all coming after the game and then now you're saying, oh, it should have been a flagrant 2. Oh, we should have. Look, you're catching the smoke and now you want to change it. You need to do it during the game. All right, during the game, go ahead and call it the way it is, man. Stop with the nonsense.
Now, everyone has the same question. How are players and spectators supposed to trust what's happening on the floor when the rules seem to change minute by minute? The gap between what officials do in real time and what the league does after review is only getting wider, and the worst part is that the officials and the league can't even seem to agree on what constitutes a flagrant. After the commotion, everyone's attention immediately turned to referee Ashley Gloss, who explained that Mabrey left the game with only a technical fall and didn't cross the threshold because Mabrey's shove didn't meet the requirements for a flagrant 2 or an ejection.
The contact made by Mabrey did not rise to the level of an ejection. Additionally, it did not meet the criteria for a flagrant foul penalty 2.
However, the WNBA quietly overruled its own official crew less than 24 hours later, bumping the penalty up to a flagrant 2. That flip-flop speaks volumes. It's not just a correction, it's a public contradiction. And now the question that keeps coming up is how a play can go from not deserving of the boot to ejection-level violence in a matter of hours.
out with this statement saying, yeah, it was a flagrant 2.
Videos went viral on social media right away, with comments like, "What do these refs even see?" The entire league was being scrutinized, not just Gloss Crew. Are the WNBA being truthful, or are they manipulating decisions in response to public outcry? Are we witnessing a self-correcting system, or one that seeks sensationalism?
So this just clearly shows me the referees need some schooling, man. Okay? They need some schooling. You had these referees out here clueless, man. And I was wondering what was taking them so long to call the right call. I swear to you, man, we lived 2 lifetimes before they came back and said what they needed to say about the nonsense that happened.
The oddity was that Caitlin Clark received a technical flag for unsportsmanlike behavior after reflexively reacting to JC Sheldon's eye poke and dead ball bump. The game itself was already a powder bomb with 6 technicals, 3 ejections, and a whirlwind of harsh fouls.
Question was, why did Caitlin Clark get a technical foul? She ended up coming back and saying, after the foul by Sheldon, Clark reacted in an unsportsmanlike manner towards Sheldon. Huh?
Given Sophie Cunningham's dismissal and a purposeful blindside shove, how can that even come close? Mabrey's most egregious infraction was briefly decreased during the game, but the league later secretly bumped it after a precisely timed hard foul was flagged live and confirmed with an additional fine.
Now the flagrant with Sophie, I'm still questioning that. I'm still questioning because it looked like a take foul, fam. And don't tell me y'all never seen somebody grab LeBron James, like hold him like both of his arms, try to hold him down. He fights through it, still makes the bucket. Don't tell me y'all never seen.
That degree of discrepancy is what feeds the flames. There is a growing lack of trust between supporters, coaches, players, and now referees as a result of one player being sent out for a typical hard foul while another is allowed to continue playing following a play that felt far more violent. Of questions of who is actually in charge are raised by the variations from call to call, particularly within a single game.
At the end of the day, as long as bad referees are allowed to do whatever the hell they want to do, as long as bad referees can get away with every single thing they want and can get away with stuff like this, nothing will ever change.
What type of pressure do referees face when they make split-second calls in front of hundreds of thousands of spectators at home and tens of thousands at the arena? Gloss said she thought Mabrey's shove didn't seem particularly egregious, but after seeing it replayed, she realized how textbook the game's high stakes were. Implications of the Commissioner's Cup, an already full plate of technicals, and Clark's growing fame shouldn't be grounds for a slip-up. This obvious referee accountability is the cornerstone of a fair competitive environment, not merely a trendy term.
Well, it's good that the refs did something about it, but they should have did something about it way earlier. They could have prevented all of this. They could have prevented every bit of this, but they chose not to.
Furthermore, if late calls are allowed live only to be drastically changed later, what do coaches, players, and fans even believe in anymore? How do you explain to teams that react to a play in real time when the rules seem to change after the fact? That not only undermines confidence in officiating, but also conveys the idea that accountability is optional, reactive, and dependent on social media outrage. Additionally, players like Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham suffer psychologically. The league says it's okay to punch a star in their prime as long as they get points off by the evening, because that's exactly the dangerous precedent being set. Caitlin responds in the moment, which is the normal human reaction to being poked in the eye, and gets flagged, but Mabrey's dangerous shove goes unpunished until later, undermining the entire foundation of competition.
But Marina Mabrey commented on TikTok about the whole situation, and this is what she said. Every time they comment, I make dollars.
What about Marina Mabrey herself? Did she shy away from the limelight? No, she embraced it, saying in a popular post-game TikTok, "Every time they comment, I make dollars." Fans either love it or hate it, but they can't deny its attention, notoriety, and yes, streaming hits. This is an attitude meeting self-awareness, and she's using controversy as branding. She's not backing down, she's redirecting. It's bold, maybe reckless, but it's transparent.
Like, if you guys don't know about Sophie Cunningham and Marina Mabrey, who these two people are, like, you need to just know the lore. Like, Marina Mabrey, this is how like, Dejanay calls Marina Mabrey her evil twin.
This isn't an isolated incident. Rather, it's a part of a regular pattern. Mabrey's reputation in the league is based on aggressive physical defense, sometimes going well beyond the bounds of clean play. Fans in arenas now jeer when she even touches the ball, and occasionally Sophia Cunningham causes her own controversies. What's changed isn't just resentment at individual plays, but rather a larger revolt against gray area officiating that comes post facto rather than in real time. In fact, arena tension dogs are present at every trip down the floor, and when Ma or JC Sheldon approaches Clark, the noise level rises and the referees come under immediate scrutiny. Either they make a defining call in the moment, or risk being criticized afterwards, and the black and gold enforcement is powerless to stop the mayhem.
Marina Mabrey is a crash out artist. Like, there's literally this page, if you guys haven't seen, called Women Hoop. And 90% of what they do.
The bigger question now is, what does it say about the WNBA's confidence in its officials when controversial fouls are common and post-game fixes feel more like damage control when a superstar like Caitlin Clark and her guardian Sophie are in danger mid-game, but the league only steps in after cameras flash and timelines blow up? Not only do we lose calls, but we also lose credibility.
And Marina Mabrey will find any excuse to knock someone on the ground or, like, go at somebody. We saw that when she was with the Sky. We'll see that with the Sun. We've seen that when she was with the Wings. Like, that's Marina Mabrey. That is Marina Mabrey at the end.
To protect player safety, competitive integrity, and Clark's incredible rise, the league must set a line both literally and figuratively. If the live officiating fails to enforce it, the video review should support the correct call right away, not after the fact. If they can find and upgrade calls later, they should be able to toughen enforcement when it matters in real time.
Marina Mabrey to a flagrant 2, which honestly, she should have just been ejected from the game. This is what happened last season with Kennedy Carter, when her cheap shot on Caitlin wasn't addressed in the moment. I think they're trying to address that now. So the flagrant 2 has been issued. Sophie Cunningham has been issued another fine on top of her flagrant 2, but is it too little too late?
This predicament makes me think of circuit breaker regulations in other sports. If you over the line, you're immediately out. If enforcement is inconsistent and reactive, the penalty loses all meaning. And if enforcement is constantly reactive, it completely upends the system, turning fans, sponsors, and rookies on their heads. After the dust settles after this lead shove incident, we still don't have concrete answers to the questions of what or who is actually covered by the guidelines. Gloss claimed it didn't qualify, but the WNBA disagreed following growing indignation, and Clark and Sophie are now responsible for their own punishment. What about officiating clarity, though? We need consistent standards, immediate accountability, and clarity from the WNBA office yesterday, not tomorrow. If not, expect more fights, post-buzzer justifications, and tension because social media outrage isn't a rulebook, it's a reaction. After all the reactions run their course, the question is whether the WNBA will take action before the next highlighted game, or if they will keep chasing the headline after the buzzer. Do you think the league should strictly enforce its rules and suspend players' Mabrey? Please let us know in the comment section below whether you'd like to subscribe and enable all notifications so you don't miss anything. We'll see you in the following video after you click the one on the screen.